Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my ReCore walkthrough, and this is mission 3, with a bunch of different missions junked together. We have Paradise Lost, Storm Shelter, and Status Check. And 3 missions together adds up to just under 6 minutes, so as you can imagine, this would have got so tedious for your sub-boxers if I'd have broken it up to each mission individually. And I just kind of wish that the designers would have taken more of a cohesive path through the game. And I don't say that as somebody who wants it for my benefit, just for everyone's benefit. You know, to realise that you're making progress rather than just having this big immersive kind of unabridged setting of everything happening at once, and before you know it, you're at the end of the game. But some core tenets of ReCore. You'll notice I'm jumping, I'm air boosting, and then when I land I'm boosting again. The landing boost is actually quite tight, because if you do it too soon, you will see Jules' legs glow, but you will not boost. So what you want to do is just after the frame you land, if you hold the boost then, you will get a perfect boost. A lot of the times you can do it without making a noise, without making the fall noise, and if you do that, it's probably the closest to optimal movement that you can get in this game, if that's something that takes your fancy. So jump, boost, on landing boost, jump boost, on landing boost, and that's one of the quicker ways to get through the game if you're just wanting to power to where you need to be. At the beginning of this encounter, you'll notice on the screen it said instant extract, and you'll also notice that above the enemies there's a rather intricate looking bar. So if you can take an enemy by surprise, or if you can build up a combo of 10, you will then be able to rip the core out of the enemies without any kind of resistance. The core itself has an indicator on the bar of when it is vulnerable, and it is these white markers that are midway down the life bar. Once you push the bars past that point, you are then able to initiating the fishing minigame of pulling the core out of the enemies. And what this does is it enables you to get energy for your robots, and you can power up your buddies. And what I would recommend that you do is at the beginning of the game, I would always recommend you go for the cores rather than destruction, because when you kill opponents you do not get cores, but instead you get items that will enable you to build more crafting components for your robots. So there's an intricate balance here of getting energy to boost their stats from the cores, and getting enough technology to give them stat boosting and beneficial equipment to give you the edge in combat. And there's an interesting mechanic in this game of, if you get to a ledge and you don't quite make it, Jewel will climb up it, but the detection on it is kind of hit and miss. It's about 80% success, 20% why didn't you grab the ledge, you dumb bitch? And you can't really control it other than, you know, being precise with your platforming. And I think it's perfectly fair and functional for the most, but every so often you will get moments where the game doesn't just register it correctly. However, can you name a single platforming game you've played where every single ledge grab was successful? It always happens, so it's not one of the flaws that you can really aim at ReCore, because this game is so bloody flawed. If you're going to waste time with the little ones, you're going to probably die before you finish listing all the big ones. And I hate to say that, because I was stoked for this game, but there are some legitimate problems. Over there, those cubes you saw me picking up, they are loot. You'll notice on the right hand side that they have a medallion that's linked to them. Depending on the colour of the medallion will correlate to how rare the loot is. Additionally, the little code that's next to it will tell you which robot the loot is for, because the loot only pertains to your buddies. It does not pertain to Jewel, and they completely missed an opportunity to have her upgradable in some interesting way, which would give the player an incentive to better themselves and not just their buddies. So I have no idea why they decided only to specify on the robot ReCore buddies, but that's just the way they went. And this instance right now is me moving forward in kind of like a preset story section where our father relates to us some information about the planet via audio logs. And believe it or not, guys, the story's pretty good in this game. There's a great hook, there's decent character development, there are a lot of characters that are actually quite likeable. Even the robots have nice personalities because of the way they're animated. I really like Jewel. I think her voice actress does a good job. I really like her father. I like the antagonist. I like a dude that you meet. I like the narrative and I like the way the story is. The biggest problem with it is it is framed in a game that has absolutely no concept of how to be a game, and instead it's just such a strange experience. And I keep kind of being vague, don't I, not going into what I mean with this, and I'm doing it because I don't have the time to really go into it. And there are some longer missions coming up, which I'm going to save it for. But as we push into this cavern, we're entering one of our first dungeons, which is this Pylon 512. And this is where the game really shines in spite of its apparent frame rate issues, and you have no doubt noticed at this moment that this game pretty much runs in slow motion about 60% of the time. And if you want a version that has better frame rate and has really fast loads, you want to do PC, because the Xbox One barely runs this game, and it can be completely adapted to. If you play it long enough, you'll stop seeing it, you'll get used to it, and it'll be fine. But the fact remains, it runs like dog shit, and it really shouldn't, because it's not the prettiest game you've ever played. It's not the most graphically intensive, mechanically intensive. There is no reason for this game to be as choppy as it is, other than poor optimization. And once again, what were they doing?